All right, and we're live. Here we go. Ryan, you can finally talk to Jeff Solomon. I know you've been itching to.
Let's see here.
I'm kind of curious as to what my Wu-Tang Clan name is, John.
No, I mean, it's just, no, you link into that and it gives you, it's a random beer name generator. So, you know.
A random beer name generator. That's pretty cool.
Okay, so Jeff didn't put anything in. So mine are, I know I've told people that have like allergies or get flushed red when they drink alcohol that, take an antihistamine. That'll probably help you. Apparently that's a really terrible idea.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, as long as they think it works.
Somebody has invented a resealable can. So if you open a can of wine or beer and don't finish it, you can seal it for later. More, I think, for the wine side with like the 375s. And then just a little story on all the handful of augmented reality wine labels that you're starting to see.
Ooh, I think I'd like to hear the antihistamine thing, and I'd like to hear the Wu-Tang Clan craft beer name.
Yeah, we could just click on the link and we start pushing things and come up with crazy stuff. You know, you could take the beer name off of the end of it and call it I don't know, Marzipan Cogspur Riesling.
There you go.
So I have to ask you guys this. I don't know if we're going to talk about the antihistamine one, but if somebody gets flush, you know, when they drink alcohol, have you ever, because it mentions it multiple times in this article, heard that called the Asian glow?
No.
No.
Seems politically incorrect.
I was like, what?
I have some friends of Asian descent who have like mentioned that, you know, they have certain reactions due to their heritage, but I don't know if that's a widespread thing or like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
All right. So, John, any of those look good? Let's pick one and go here. I mean, I guess we could wait and see how we are on time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a public service, we should talk about antihistamines and alcohol. It is allergy season, and will continue to be until October. So we should do our listeners a favor.
And as a public service, Wu-Tang Clan craft beer name also. That won't take very long.
Yeah, it'll take a minute and a half.
Yeah. All right, somebody cue it up then.
John will have it ready, right?
Yeah, all you got if you're in the notes, all you got to do is press that link and it'll take you to it.
Yeah, I'll have mine queued up too. All right.
Okay.
Oh, these guys are the best.
All right. Craig, would you mind recording a little audio, a little bumper for us?
Sure, no problem.
I can either give you some ideas or you can just freewheel it.
Well, I'd certainly take your thoughts.
So generally what people give us is, hey, this is Craig Camp with Troon Vineyards. You're listening to the We Like Drinking podcast, where you never drink alone.
Okay.
Or just play with it anytime you're ready.
Okay, so I'm Craig Camp from Troon Vineyards. I do like drinking, so being part of the We Like Drinking podcast is absolutely perfect for me. And I'm thrilled to be here, and you should too.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, John, I was sold a bill of goods here. This is just that yoga thing where I wanted Wu-Tang Clan.
Well, you know, there you go.
How dare you? All right.
Is it not Wu-Tang?
No, it's not. But you remember back in the day when you did that stuff.
Sure.
I was putting Wu-Tang in the notes. So what is it?
It's the Magnificent Bastard craft beer name generator,
which is still pretty awesome. It has nothing to do with the Wu-Tang Clan. Oh, because his name's Magnificent Bastard. Okay, I got it. All right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh my God.
Wu-Tang.
Just grab that. Hold on, because you're getting cut for about an hour and 15.
Okay. I can handle it. I'm good.
All right.
There's the oh shit handle in your car. You have to have one at your desk when you're on the show.
Okay.
Okay, we got that, and we got that, and we got that. Did Ryan Hannigan say anything in the chat yet?
Yeah, he said from this day forward, you're going to be known as the Mad Dreamer. Didn't know I was going to be relaying inside jokes all night. Thanks for watching, Ryan Hannigan.
Okay. All right. I think we got everything out of the way. Craig, as you know, at some point, somebody's going to say smoked whale testing. Let's see. You know the bits that we've got. Anything at the end of the show, I'm also going to say thanks again for joining us, the We Like Drinking podcast. And then we all sing song. You say, "Where you'll never drink alone," and we all punch our screens for some reason. I don't know why we do it.
Okay.
So feel free to join in. You probably won't remember it. You wonder what we're doing, and that's just how it goes.
I'll go with the flow.
There you go. All right. I'm ready. You guys all set?
Yeah.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's do this. Ryan, get ready for this, brother.
This is Ryan from Focus on the Beer, and you're listening to the We Like Drinking podcast, where you'll never drink alone.
At the sound of the tone, the official We Like Drinking time will be 5 o'clock. Commence consumption.
Thank you for joining us for the award-winning We Like Drinking podcast. In this episode, we'll be discussing antihistamines and booze, your craft beer name, and we're getting dirty with Craig Camp. So crack open your beer, uncork that wine, and let's get drinking! Right, listeners, light them up and knock them down, because here we go with episode 175 of the We Like Drinking podcast. Now, Jeff Solomon.
Oh, yeah. Hey, what's up?
If you don't remember what our show is all about, this is the podcast that reminds people that drinking beer and wine it's supposed to be fun, man. And that even through the laughs, you can still learn something about your favorite drinks. That's
wow. I did not know that. I think I'll stick around for another 175.
That's a good idea. Now, before we get started, Jeff, there's a little something we have to take care of every show. And I don't know why I've defaulted to you for that all the time now, but so go ahead.
Because John, when he tells you to do this, you end up in a single line highway in Costa Rica, and there's a bull at the end. But anyways, while you are listening to our award-winning podcast on your favorite podcast catcher app, why don't you just jam the screen a couple of times until you see where you can leave us an honest, wonderful 5-star review. It really helps the show, and it helps us get into the ear holes of other like-minded folks like you. Let's make this a bigger party, and you're a big part of that. So mash those buttons.
Mash those buttons. Yeah. All right, folks, you heard some of us talking, so let's find out who they are. We're joined by our usual panel members. We've got our wine blogger, Jeff Solomon.
Hello. Sporadic.
We've got our commercial brewer, John Ruyak.
Hello, folks.
And I am your host, Jeff Eccles. And our guest this evening has been get ready for the most badass, coolest intro that we've ever had on the show. I'm just going to say. Our guest tonight has been in the wine industry since the 1970s. That may not be true, but I'm going to say it. Working as a photographer, a writer, and multiple levels in the sales tier. Then in 2000, he left that side of the vineyard for the production side, working and studying in Italy until he returned to the U.S. in 2004, where he has revolutionized the winemaking and marketing programs at both. And is it Ami?
Enemy.
Yeah. Anime Vineyards, and most recently at this little kind of hole in the wall called Cornerstone. You may have heard of that one. His current gigs finds him as the general manager at Troon Vineyards in the Applegate Valley of Southern Oregon, making natural wines with native yeast. This season as well, he is leading the charge to go fully biodynamic farming model. Please help us welcome a true legend in the wine world, Mr. Craig Camp. How you doing, Craig?
I am happy to be drinking with you tonight.
That big intro, and then it's just like 3 like
Golf clap.
we really need to.
You need another button, Jeff.
I need another clapping button.
Well, I actually did make the 70s, but it was just 79. So
yeah, figured round down or just broad it up.
That was the first full year I ever lived through.
Yeah, well, I probably remember it better than you.
I'm certain. But it was a crazy time, though.
John, if I remember right, doesn't remember 1979.
Yeah, but not for the same reasons that Solomon doesn't remember.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the 70s.
I don't remember for the same reason you do.
So, Craig, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking time out of your busy farming life to join us here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So now, how long ago was it that you decided to up and leave that little place Cornerstone and head up to Troon?
Well, Cornerstone in Napa was a great experience, but I think you learn really quickly that in an established area like Napa, there's not a lot of room to really break out and make an impact. I had in mind, I'd been in Oregon before, so I had a strong desire to come back and to really go to a place where you could be on the cutting edge and do something that would make a difference. And I felt Applegate Valley was the ideal place to do that.
It's because there was acreage available to do the things you want, or?
Well, it's a combination of things. So first of all, good dirt, good climate for the type of varieties that I wanted to grow, which really spun away from typical Cabernet, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Sauvignon Blanc. I really, from my time in Europe and as an importer, I really developed a love for the wines of southern France and Sardinia and Italy. And those varieties had just been, I guess, pulling at my heart for a long time. And this is the ideal place to grow those varieties.
Absolutely. Now, folks, if you haven't heard of Troon before and you want to get in touch with them, you can go to their website at Troon Vineyard. That's Troon Vineyard. And you can also find them on all the socials at Troon Wines. So, Jeff Solomon.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know where to begin. I guess I'll begin with this because, what people may not know about Craig Camp, just as far as, being involved with some pretty awesome wineries throughout his career, is he's an amazing writer and he has a fantastic blog. It's winecampblog.com, right?
Yes. Yeah, well, I find writing is a great way to think through what you want to do as a winemaker, what direction you want to take the winery, and just the process. You guys have all done that, and it's a thought process when you have to put things down in a coherent style, and it really changes your thinking. So I've always loved to do it, and pursued that both as certainly good promotional work for the winery, but also I just find it personally satisfying. So I've never really followed how many readers I have and all the trying to build it up. I just do it because I love to do it, and maybe someday when I'm not really ready to run around the vineyards all day, I might put it all together and and write something in a longer form. So who knows?
Yeah, I'd love to read it, because honestly, listeners, like Craig Camp, like it's apparent you start talking to him and just reading his stuff, and real quickly it's like, this dude is an artiste in every sense, and you really do a good job of driving home how important it is to incorporate, like, treat wine like you would food, and just to hear you talk about, the philosophies behind wine and behind food, and I just honestly just found myself gravitating towards this one particular article on your blog today. It was just about a risotto lesson, and I could read you talking about risotto forever, Craig. So let me ask
I have a
you.
risotto problem. So I wrote this 1,000 words on risotto.
When most people think about a risotto writing, they don't think it's going to be 1,000 words, but this one was.
Yeah, right.
Well, I wonder, like, what has risotto taught you about wine?
Well, I think the thing that I've always loved about risotto is actually the making of it. It's almost more important than the eating of it, although I enjoy that too. But it's to make risotto in a classic style is a very mindful, meditative type experience, because it's a very, you prepare all the ingredients and they're all there assembled, and then you go through a process of stirring and taking time, and you have to stop everything else and think about that. Although I still drink wine while I'm doing it, but it's a meditative process, and I don't believe that you can be, if you make risotto and you're stressed out at the end of making the risotto when you're ready to eat, you're not stressed out anymore. So it becomes this kind of psychological, emotional dish.
A little bit of
therapy. It's therapy.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I love me. I agree. I love making risotto, but you're right. It's like when you're making risotto, that's it. You're not doing anything else.
That's it. Yeah. And the interesting thing about risotto is you can make better risotto at home than restaurants can make, because it's designed for that type of, cook time when you have time to cook situation.
So now that we've all got risotto on the mind, maybe we should take a little break and get to what we're drinking.
What goes good with risotto? All right, let's figure it out.
I'm so excited to talk to Greg. Here's Jeff, John, and me. Whatever. I don't want to talk to these guys. I want to talk to Craig. But so Craig, do you have anything in your glass tonight to pair with these three yahoos that you're with?
Well, considering the company, I decided on Fernet Branca.
Oh.
So I had dinner and I'm relaxing and having a little bitter to go with my group here.
Oh, nice.
Excellent. Jeff Solomon.
Well, I was thinking about we're gonna learn quite a bit about Troon Vineyards tonight, and specifically about a lot of really neat philosophies that they're incorporating into it. And I was thinking about how there's this really awesome, like, minimalistic philosophy at Troon Vineyards, and I just thought to myself, like, how could I showcase minimalism in wine tonight? And so
you don't have that apathic brew again, do you?
No, come on, man. So what I've got right here, and I think this would go good with risotto, it's a 2016 Sangiovese that I fermented in my closet last year. And I'm really enjoying this. So this was just native yeast that started fermenting in the bucket when my friend was bringing it back from Yuba County a couple years ago, and it just kept rolling. And obviously, this is nowhere near close to the qualities of most wines you could buy anywhere. But
but it's yours, man.
no, it's really special to me because it's like I totally you know, I think anybody who's ever been critical of any wine really needs to try to make some themselves, just so they know like how difficult it can be. That being said, like I'm a big fan of this too. I don't know if there was much intention into it. It was about like, you know, are the kids asleep? Okay, I can work on my wine right now. But I'm really enjoying this. I have like 1 or 2 bottles left of this Chateau Courier, and it's fantastic.
Excellent. How about you, John?
Well, I wouldn't say it's minimalistic because I've got some Lizard Tail Imperial Red this evening. It's 8.4% ABV and 60 IBUs. This was made at the request of one of our customers who really wanted us to make an Imperial Red, so we did. And he helped us brew it, so that's pretty neat.
Nice.
Nice.
I received a gift this week from someone, and I thought I would drink it on the show. So I have the Lindemans Strawberry Lambic beer from Belgium. So nice little sour here. Gets me in the mood for dealing with John and Jeff.
Being a sour?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, you start out that way.
Oh, you.
All right, so let's get back to our guest, Craig Camp from Troon Vineyards and the Wine Camp blog. So, biodynamics, Craig, I'm interested. This is something that's fascinated me for years, and I love reading about it and being able to talk to people about it. But was this something you've been planning for years to make the transition to biodynamic? I think you've been organic for at least a few years since you've been at Troon, but what was the decision to go to biodynamic?
I've been certainly thinking about it and studying it for a long time. And one thing I learned in the process and from tasting and watching my friends make wine is that when you converted a vineyard to biodynamics, it made better wine. Why? I suppose that's always the question, but it did make better wine. So when we took over Troon in 2014, it had been conventionally farmed. The soil, I would say, had been abused, and I was looking for ways to bring these vineyards back to life, because you don't want to just tear out 45 acres of vines and start over again. You know, it's a long process, and you've got older vines. So the question was not to tear them out, but how to revigorate them. And I really believe that biodynamics is the way to do that, because people look at biodynamics in a lot of ways. The way I perceive it is what you're doing is organic agriculture, and then layering this really complex probiotic program on top of it. So organics, tells you kind of what not to do, and biodynamics tells you what to add back in. So you take things like the various preparations. The famous one, of course, is the cow horn, the buried cow horn, the 500. But if you think about what you're doing, you're taking that cow horn, filling it with manure, and then burying it in the soil. And that cow horn is collecting the natural fungi and bacteria of your property, and then you're rebroadcasting it out through your property. So the whole process with the composting and everything, you're trying to build up that microbiome around just like you do in your stomach when you take probiotics. You're trying to build up the microbiome, because the way a vine feeds itself is that the bacteria and fungi around the roots actually do the chemistry that allows the vine to take nutrition from the soil. So if you go to conventional farming, and you're just doing these nitrogen hits with petroleum fertilizers, the vine loses its ability to actually take its own, any plant will, its own nutrition from the soil, and it can only live by these main lines of nitrogen. like it becomes like a drug addict. It's hooked on the nitrogen. So you don't get these deep root systems that add complexity to the wine. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring the vines back to health so that they can fight off diseases and other pests with their own natural systems. And I believe that biodynamics is the best way to do that.
My wife and I have been staunch believers in making our own sourdough bread for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
So we've cultivated the microbiome in our own home into making our bread. And we eat bread all the time, where before, if you bought that in the store, you'd feel bloated and everything like that, but it's natural to us. So you're creating a natural environment for the vines.
Exactly. I mean, that's exactly it. By living on the natural bacteria and fungi in your own environment that your system is adapted to, you don't get some of the, everybody says all these things, bad things about white flour or bread, but if it's naturally done, you don't get those bad results. And it's the same for a plant. And that's what people just don't think about with plants is that they are actually know what they're doing. They have systems designed to fight off pests, to resist threats in the environment. And when you take that away from them through chemical farming, they forget how to do it, and you have to retrain them, just like retraining your stomach to eat bread.
Right.
And Craig,
So,
that's like literally, that's the best explanation of biodynamic farming I've ever heard. Like the organic, how biodynamic is more about feeding the earth and building it up, when organic may be taken out. That's fantastic. So I think that really explains it very well. Now, and there's a lot of different facets to biodynamic farming. There's,
Mm-hmm.
do you do it all as well as the replenishing it? Are you, is today a plant day or a harvest day? Are you using those charts and whatnot to be able to determine what you're doing in the vineyard as well?
We do to a practical degree. Here's the way I describe that: is that there's no doubt that the cycles of the moon affect liquids, waters. And anybody, I'm sure you see it in brewing. We see it in winemaking. There's just better times of the month to do certain things, and liquid is more affected than anything else by the cycles of the moon. But you have to approach it with a practical approach. There's, the whole, if you go back to Steiner and this whole, Rose Steiner, who created biodynamics in the 20s, a lot of the things they thought of were almost, they turned them into this spiritual reaction to the new chemicals that were being introduced. So it's kind of this combination of, psychology and spirituality and a desire to get back to traditions. And so, for instance, here, let's take a real easy example. Say if you look at the calendar and it's a bad day to pick, but it's going to rain 6 inches the next day. Pick anyway, because any benefit you could gain by waiting for a better day would be negated by the rain.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to apply a practicality to it. So that, yes, there's the flower days and the root days and all that, but I think many modern biodynamic farmers are taking a more scientific approach, and we tend to work more on ascending and descending moons, as a pattern during the month. You have ascending and descending. So there's times when you're trying to do natural, where you don't want to filter the wine, but you want to move it. So there's certain times of the month that it's easier to do that, and we try to follow that. So yes, we do try to follow the biodynamic calendar. We use ascending and descending moons as the primary goal, but we still try to follow root days and all that when we can. But we're trying to integrate it into a more sophisticated system. Like we're trying to apply a lot of science now to biodynamics. I believe that there's science behind why things happen. And, there's this whole range there's a discipline to biodynamics, and we don't know which parts of the discipline work and which ones don't. So right now we're going to follow the whole process.
Okay.
But we're doing many things. Like we just did a complete breakdown of our entire property with a company. We're client of a company called Wine SEQ, wine sequencing. They do genetic sequencing of all of your soils. So we broke down every part of our soil, and they did a complete genetic sequencing and all the fungi, the bacteria, the diseases, everything that's there. And we're using that as a baseline. So as we progress through biodynamics, we want to understand what we're changing. So we're not just doing it. We're adding science on top of that. Next week, we have Dr. Paul Anamosa coming up from Napa, who is a Vineyard Soil Technologies, this company. We're doing 75-foot pits on the property to do complete soil analysis. And then, so we're doing total baseline work on the entire vineyard, where it's at now after these years of commercial farming, and then our transition to sustainable farming, and now as we move forward into biodynamics. So we think, 5-10 years from now, we're going to have a pretty clear picture about where we've moved the vineyard. It's a great thing now to do this genetic sequencing because, that's been around for a while, but it wasn't financially feasible. Right. But now it is. It's a relatively. It's not that it's cheap, but it's at least doable.
Excellent. So that'll really give you.
I had a question. So Craig, as a I don't know if if you listen to many of our episodes, but one of my hobbies is looking for snakes, and I have an app on my phone that's a Solunar table.
Yes.
Is that similar to what you're looking for? Because it's a hunting and fishing thing.
Yeah, we do those. The solar apps, the lunar apps. So we're looking at that basic pattern the moon runs. It runs that basically its summer winter cycle in a month through the sky. So we're following that. And most, but the thing is nature does do this. This is, like you said, with the snakes and things like that. This is something you can actually prove that it has an impact, because the animals and plants are clearly affected by it. So we're just trying to cooperate with what is a natural process, which I think you see really clearly in an ascending and descending mood. Now the whole root days, flower days, and so forth. This is a little, there's a lot of controversy on that, and that hasn't been proven. But certainly, that the whole idea of ascending and descending moons is established in botany.
And if you don't believe that the moon has an impact, Jeff Solomon, go teach an elementary school classroom on a full moon.
My wife delivered babies, and more babies are born, and more women go into labor on full moons than on normal days.
All I'm saying is the super moon is not as big of a deal as everybody makes it out to be. That's all I'm saying.
It's a super blood moon.
The super blue blood moon, though.
The super blue blood moon. No, that is where you move up your rosé bottling an extra day.
You hear that,
right, Lori? Okay. All right.
The reason you move up your rosé bottling for the super moon is because you're going to have a lot of customers that night, and you need to get it out, but not for any kind of money.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. All right,
everybody. Hold on. Jeff Solomon's ready to go.
No, you got me. Okay. Now I'm just thinking about existence. So as a biology teacher, like a lot of times I find myself, sticking to thinking about our planet and its existence for 4.5 or so billion years. I think about life evolving on this planet for about 3.5 billion years. But then as I think about the planet in synergy with the moon within our universe that's ever expanding, and I think about these 4 dimensions of space and time being intermingled, and how I'm in my house right now, but tomorrow my house will not be where it is in this instant. We're somewhere else, right? As time goes by. And so I'm thinking about how things are changing, and I'm thinking about dynamics, and I'm thinking about biodynamics, and I'm thinking about a minimalistic, natural approach to wine. And what I'm wondering is, you know, in a world where I see a lot of wineries, bigger commercial wineries, maybe striving for consistency, in the world of biodynamic wines, are we really striving for us, you know, basically our wines are taking note of the history of the seasons? Is, I mean, philosophically,
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you're making a natural wine, you only make that wine once in your life. You can't repeat it. It's a one-time thing. The circumstances that create it never align totally again. So while yes, it's going to be similar, but it's just never the same. And your experience of making it is different every year too. I mean, you know, you're using native yeast like we do, and crushing by foot and not using machines. They act different every year. And we can't necessarily. You don't. I mean, you have. It's not like it's not like, you know, you're uninformed and uneducated. It just happens. But I mean, it doesn't necessarily happen in the same time frame and with the same chemistry that you expect every year. You know, you look at numbers that you get harvest, but then they move in their own way. You know, I think, for instance, one thing we like to do instead of blending is co-fermenting, actually putting the grapes together and fermenting. And it's an interesting process. I'm sure you've all had blended wines, and you taste them one week and they taste like the Merlot, and the next week they taste like the Cabernet. And this, but when you co-ferment, it's almost like creating a new variety. They totally integrate because you the chemistry in the fermenter. Even you know, you're talking about a tiny change, but you know, it changes the way it ferments. And because you're using a native yeast and you're not doing any kind of intervention, that expression comes through. And that's, to me, that's the passionate part. I mean, that's what you want to express.
That's beautiful. It's craft winemaking. It's like craft brewing. It's craft winemaking. You can't.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of similarities,
like
you know, between true craft brewing and winemaking are definitely spiritual, you know, cousins. You know, it's the same philosophy, it's the same approach, and you look at it. I mean, first of all, they're both food. I think that's the key. This is, you know, wine and beer are part of cultural food. That's what people consumed for calories to keep them working and consume as liquid in ancient times before there was clean water. And when you had to burn 4,000, 5,000 calories a day just to survive, you needed beer and wine just to keep moving forward. So I think, you know, in craft brewing and in craft winemaking, you see people that are following that concept that these are beverages that are part of our not only our culture, we've lived.
All three of us got books called A Short History of Drunkenness, and it's well, the first couple chapters so far have been pretty funny. I read it at breakfast before I go off to brew every day, and our bodies are actually designed to consume alcohol on a regular basis. 60% of your liver is designed to convert alcohol into usable energy. And a lot of it has to do with our rise from primates and seeking out fermented fruit that fell on the ground because it smelled sweeter and we were attracted to it. And then our bodies evolutionarily adjusted to that. So we were created to consume these things. So anyway,
that's why those dumb birds just fly into windows. They ain't got our livers.
But that's the difference. If you look at, you know, commercial, industrial winemaking and beer making, these became instead of part of what's natural for people, they become just alcohol delivery systems.
An industrialized product, yeah.
Yeah, and whereas a naturally made product, beer is like bread, and wine is an integral part of digestion and life. So it's a different concept.
Awesome.
So
okay,
I wanted.
Go ahead,
Jeff.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I was really when I was doing my pre-show prep and my homework, and I was looking at the wines that were co-fermented. Is that something that's done other places? Was this a brainstorm of yours? How did that come about for you, Craig?
No. It's a tradition. It's a extremely old way of making wine. I mean, in centuries past, they would plant multiple grape varieties because they would ripen at different times, and it was a way to just guarantee you'd have something to ripen every year. And so you just you they have whatever number of varieties they had in their vineyard, and they would just pick them all at the same time. But what's happened is industrial modern winemaking, like you see in Napa and so forth, is to go for this ultra clean ripe fruit, which delivers kind of a monotone in the wine. It's like it's all made from little blueberries, and it has this kind of dark fruit, sweet, but not clearly distinguishable variety. When you make wine, it's better to make it actually from some that are a little overripe, some that are a little underripe, some that are just ripe, and together they create a lot more interesting beverage. The underripe ones bring acidity, the overripe ones bring more sugar, and the ripe ones. So it becomes a more layered wine. And 1 year in Napa, I had the opportunity. When they have a new system called an optical sorter, and this machine literally takes everything out except the perfect berries, and a lot of really high-end wineries use it. And I was amazed the first time I saw it. I mean, everything came out, everything that wasn't grapes, perfect grapes, came out one end, and nothing but these perfect little blueberries came out the other. And the wine was pretty and fruity, but I found it boring. And I think that's when I really started thinking about going on to other things. Is that definitely was like, I realized that this is like the opposite direction of where I want to go. You want the diversity. That's the diversity of fruit that gives it interest. And then in co-fermentation, you add a even a more unique dimension, because you have two varieties that, of course, are going to be of different levels of ripeness, and they just add interest. It's interesting to drink the wine from them.
Wow.
Amazing. Wow. Jeff, do you have another question? And we can start.
That just touches my heart.
Just put a little bow on it. As a biology teacher, I can't stress enough the importance of biodiversity, like the way that ecosystems continue to exist, the way that species continue to exist is the more variety, the better. And we see that translated into everything, right? You see it translated in having a classroom with as many different abilities integrated into one classroom. You're going to get more learning in general. I mean, and so I'm just seeing these really awesome, awesome connections there. I will ask one question real quick. So in hearing you speak, in reading your writing, in thinking about Troon Vineyards, I think there's a lot of ways that you could describe the way that we're doing wine at Troon Vineyards. But I keep falling back on minimalism, and I'm wondering if do consumers ever get confused in thinking that by taking a minimalistic approach that you're taking an easier approach? It's obvious you're not. I'm just wondering, has that ever been a thing? Oh, that's just the easiest way.
Well, I think you could argue it's easier. we're not adding all these things. I mean, we don't add anything. I mean, we pick the grapes. They go into, well, like you said, with the wine you made at home, it started fermenting. They start fermenting.
Mm-hmm.
They just do. It's a natural process. But I don't know if many people actually think about it too much. I think they like what they taste. We have a lightness and freshness in our wines, and more restrained alcohols. And to tell you the truth, I'm making 7,500 cases of wine in a good year. There's 300 million Americans. If I can't find people that agree with me, I'm probably not doing a good job. So I think it's just better to make the wine I believe in, and then we'll connect with the people that do it. And that's the advantage of being small, right? If I made 150,000 cases, I would have to think about those things. But that's why I'm not involved in that end of the business.
Yeah, and by the way, listeners, take it from me. You can believe in Troon Vineyards. Friggin' badass.
Thank you.
We were lucky enough to meet up with Craig at the Wine Bloggers Conference and get a sampling of his orange wine made with Riesling. And man, that was a treat. That was some tasty juice right there.
I don't know, have you guys ever read a book? The chef Dan Barber of Stone Barns in New York, the farm to table restaurant. It's a book called The Third Dish, and it's a really fascinating book because it talks about what we were talking about before. Like why certain pigs taste better, and it's just it's because of what they eat and how they eat it. It's not just the process of giving them things they'll eat like corn or things like that, but it's the actual process that they have to go out and find the food and look for it, and you give them the opportunity, and if the animal does that, the meat tastes better. The Hamon Iberico in Spain, that the oak trees are planted certain distances apart, so to eat the acorns, they have to go and eat grass in between, and it's all part of the process. So there's all these natural processes in making things that taste good that don't involve that involve complexity in the natural process, not in the production process. You don't make great Hamon Iberico by just stuffing them full of food. You can't do it. They have to go through the process of creating it themselves, and then the meat is fantastic. And the same for a peach or a grape or a hop or anything in the world is that it has to have that before you pick it. So if you try to put it back in afterwards, it's never going to be the same.
It doesn't work. Yeah. And I think those brothers have a farm outside in New York. I think they're brothers, and I think I saw a special about them on that.
It's a fantastic book. Yeah. The Third Plate.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Craig, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, I know that we could go on for a long time on this. I guess that just means we'll have to try to have you back sometime.
Yeah, I've got 6 other questions, but okay.
And so, listeners, as you can tell, we're big fans of Craig. We're big fans of his wine. So be sure to check out Troon Vineyard at truevineyard.com. And then if you want to be regaled more by Craig, check out winecampblog.com. But we are going to move on with the rest of the show. Craig, we hope you'll stick around for the rest of because now we're going to get dumb. We've been up here, and now we're going to go down here.
We're going to go way. Yeah, you can't see where his hand went.
Right, so, all right. So let's get into it and get started with grape, hop, or pop culture reference. This is where I give these guys a term, and they try to tell me if it's a wine grape, a beer hop, or some kind of pop culture reference. The term...
Me too?
Yes, you too. You too.
I don't know anything about pop culture or hops, so...
The term this week is Brun Forca. Is Brune Forca a wine grape, a beer hop, or a pop culture reference? I think we're on John. Are we on John, or did John get it?
We might be, but I have a sneaking suspicion there's an umlaut.
There is
in this.
no umlaut.
Are
What?
you shitting
There
me?
is
There's
no
no
umlaut
umlaut?
over the U. There is not.
Can you spell it, please?
Brun is the first word.
Oh, it's 2 words. Okay.
Fourca.
Okay.
Brune
I
Forca.
could have sworn there was an umlaut.
I agree, but there is no umlaut. John.
You know, okay, it's my turn. I thought it sounded briefly Scandinavian, so I was wondering if maybe there was a hop involved that would flavor a beer that's made from smoked whale testicles. So now I'm going with a grape. I'm saying this is some sort of grape, and it's kind of pinkish, not red.
Okay, all right. Craig, is Brune Forca a wine grape, a beer hop, or a pop culture reference?
Well, I'll go with a grape, maybe a Slovakian grape or something like that.
All right. Jeff Solomon.
Yeah, I'm totally going grape here. And really I think it was, you're putting this in our guest's wheelhouse. You're trying to stump our guest, which is messed up. But yeah, I feel like it's got to be a grape, and I'm gonna go Austria, and it's like a really thick-skinned, dark red grape from Austria, Brune Forca.
All right. Well, you all went with the same one, and you are all absolutely correct. Brune Forca is a wine grape. It is a French wine grape of all things.
What?
That was once widely grown throughout that little-known region called Provence. So good job, everybody, on this week in grape hop or pop culture reference. But now, a lot of people hate turning the television on to see the news, but we love it for a bit we call Booze News, where we discuss interesting, noteworthy, or sometimes some pretty dumb things. So this week, you know what, John, why don't you lead us out with this one?
What? What your Wu-Tang Clan craft beer name is?
Yes.
Okay, so the big deal is all these things about go on the internet and you type in the middle word on your whatever you're typing, and whatever your spell checker tells you should add next, and just add them incoherently and come up with stuff. So I was just kind of playing around the internet, and I came across this craft beer name generator.
Okay.
So if you're having trouble coming up with a name for your home brew, or if there's any craft brewers out there listening to the show, you could just go to www.magnificentbastard.com, and you can get a craft beer name generator. Now, the naming criteria is there's some sort of flavor in the beginning, and then the second part of the name is either a yoga pose or a bicycle part, and then they just kind of throw in some sort of beer type. So you just press a button, and you get a name like Free Range Chain Suck Amber Ale.
Yeah, I just did my own at magnificentbastard.com, and I got Sea Salt Caramel Reclining Hero Stout.
Or Licorice Whip Gear Shift Cable Scottish Ale. That's not bad. I mean, I don't know how you'd get it on a label, but it kind of works.
Yeah. Or Boysenberry
trademark
Paradise Zwicker beer.
All right. And,
so have fun with that, folks. You can have a party game with it or something like that. It's it's just stupid fun.
there you go. Mine is Candied Ginger Warrior Ice Buck.
Write that down, please.
You got it.
Oh my goodness. Magnificent bastard. That almost sounds like the old dirty bastard from the Wu-Tang Clan, son.
There you go.
Let's get Craig's here. So Craig, give us a flavoring or preparation technique.
For
Anything.
beer?
Whatever you want. Risotto.
Racina. Adding pine tar.
All right. How about a yoga pose or bicycle part?
Sprocket.
There you go.
A beer type. And a beer type.
Pale ale.
Yeah. Racina Sprocket Pale Ale. That sounds delicious.
Your beer is a half-baked Lotus oatmeal stout.
Hey, I like stout. It's out fine.
Oh, wow.
All right. So
That's my favorite beer.
all right. So go check that one out and get your beer name. And we want to hear about it. So hit us up on either Facebook or Twitter or the tavern, or email us at podcast@welikedrinking.com. All right. So this next one was kind of a blow to me a little bit. The title of this article is "Why You Shouldn't Use Antihistamines to Prevent Alcohol-Induced Flushing." So now this is something I've actually told people in the past, that if you get a little flush from drinking alcohol, that if you take an antihistamine beforehand, it can help prevent that from happening. Apparently that's not the best idea in the world.
Why not, Jeff?
Well,
Are you donating your liver to somebody?
I thought alcohol-induced flushing came from drinking too many beers.
right. It can, but you've seen people that take like one drink and they instantly turn red. So Jeff Solomon, do you have any ideas why this might be a bad idea?
I just, that sounds so homeopathic, like cures like. Yeah. So if you want to get rid of flushing, rub some poison oak on your face.
There you go. So in reality, the histamine blocker can escalate your alcohol intake and increase the risk of stomach cancers, esophageal cancers, and a type of skin cancer called squamous cell carcinoma.
Ugh, that's not good.
Yeah, but does it stop your face from getting red?
It does, but the
Other
big,
than that other stuff.
yeah, exactly, is that it can end up causing you to consume more alcohol because you don't feel the behavioral effects of the alcohol for longer. So it may take longer for the alcohol to get through your system. Thus, you could end up with higher blood alcohol content, et cetera, et cetera.
So for whatever reason, this is your particular flushing is a regulator that tells you slow the hell down.
Right.
And so if you're taking antihistamines long term, it could cause problems. That being said, if it's your wedding day, go ahead, pop an antihistamine, suggest it to your enemies, and then like when they're 60 and they're complaining about all these problems, go,
I'm not a doctor. I just play one on my podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Excellent. So anything else on that, guys? Anything?
Yeah, I guess on some level, like I have seen people where it's like they have a little bit of wine and they just like break out and it's crazy and they complain the whole time. And my thing is like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't. You know what I mean? And maybe I'm saying the wrong thing. But it's like, yeah, either take it or you don't. If you keep drinking and it's causing things that you don't like and you're still doing it anyways, I might suggest that you join a 12-step program.
All right. Excellent.
I can imagine somebody at a meeting, they're like, people are talking about like all the shit that's gone wrong
Why
in
are
their
you
life,
here?
and then
Jeff
somebody
Sullivan
goes,
told me to be.
yeah, and then one person gets up and they're like, I just turn really red when I drink. Kick them out.
All right. Well, if we're discussing throwing people out of AA meetings, it must be
Last call.
Last call.
time to clean house and lock the doors. So you know what we do here, folks. We need your help in different aspects of we like drinking. So we like to ask for your help in different processes. So John Ruyak.
What? Yeah, I guess I'm not good enough to do it at the beginning of the show, but you're okay with me doing it towards the end.
Yeah, you've lubricated your brain enough that you feel you're in the flow and things just come. You're like Dr. Johnny Fever in WKRP when they did the
Him, yeah, I get it. Press the button even faster.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, hey, hit us up on Facebook. We Like Drinking. We've got the tavern page, the We Like Drinking the Tavern. Twitter. What else we got? Twitter's what We Like Drinking 1. That's the numeral 1, right?
Yep.
Instagram. All those places. You can find out what we're doing.
And what are we on Instagram, John?
I think we're We Like Drinking on Instagram.
We are very, very good. After 175 episodes, you got all 3 right. Good job. So
practice.
Craig, I've known we mentioned it a few times in the show, but just if the listeners have stopped driving and they have pen and paper now, where can the listeners find Craig Camp and Troon Vineyards on the interwebs?
You can find me at Craig Camp on everything. And Troon Wines on Facebook and Instagram and all the usual ones. And we are troonvineyard.com.
Absolutely. And Jeff Solomon.
Yes, sir.
Now, if the listeners are like, these guys are really good, I'm going to go buy some Troon wines, and then I've got all this change left over, and I need to do something with it. What's something that our listeners could do?
Oh, dude, hit us up at welikedrinking.com/pledge. Find out how you can become a patron of the show through Patreon. It's this really awesome program where you can commit to giving us $1 a month, and it just really helps us keep this pirate ship afloat, giving you the best independent booze news outlet this side of the Rio Grande. Is it the Rio Grande or the Rio Grande?
Well, it depends. If you're in Mexico, it's the Rio Bravo. But as that may be, look, folks, you could be our boss for $1 a month.
Basically, but it really does help. We've been able to use these funds to, I don't know what we did with John's microphone setup, but Jeff and I have very nice microphones in front of us. But so and that all comes from you, and we just really appreciate it. We've got some really awesome bonus episodes that you can listen to. There's really cool bonus content. We make stickers every once in a while. We got some swag to send your way. So hit us up. welikedrinking.com/pledge and find out how you can make your favorite drinking show that much better.
That's right. And if you've done all that, but you really want to tell us how you feel about the show, considering leave us a review on iTunes. So just hit up iTunes, search out We Like Drinking, give us that big fat 5-star review, and leave us a little sentence about what you think about the show. We read it on the show. If we can get a hold of you, we'll get you some cool swag as well. All right. So that, my friends, was a lot of information to absorb. So now it's time for a little bit we like to call Wait, Who Subscribed? Where I give these guys a quote from someone fictional or non-fictional, and they basically try to guess what it is. All right, so one we've never done this week. This week, something we haven't done before. So not exactly a line, but you guys will get it. I've got two. I'm going to give you one, and if I have to go to the second one, I will. So Craig, you know what we do here? I'm going to give you a line, and you got to try to guess what it's from. Okay. All right. From the Big Blue River crossing, it is 118 miles to Fort Kearny, whatever, however you want to call it. All right. So from the Big Blue River crossing, it is 118 miles to Fort Kearny. All right. So Jeff Solomon, you start this one out.
Do I have to? I have no idea what
Okay.
the hell this is.
That's fine. Craig Camp, any thoughts on what that line may be from?
California Visitor's Guide.
John Riek, any thoughts?
Does this have something to do with Lewis and Clark and going up to Oregon?
Oh, it's the Oregon Trail. Mother effer. You know, I was talking to somebody earlier today about, I was explaining to them that I'm not Generation X and I'm not a millennial, I'm a zennial. And then I went and I clicked on, looked it up on Wikipedia, and right after zennial, it says, AKA the Oregon Trail generation. It's totally the Oregon Trail. Mother effer.
Very well done. I like how you guys all work together on that one. Get that one. The next one was going to be Mary has died of dysentery, and I think that's
like an old 8-bit video game, right?
I'm almost certain where Craig lives in Oregon, they call that the state of Jefferson.
That is indeed. That's where I live. We're seceding.
I was gonna say, take Chico with you, please.
Moving on, you can also find the show notes for this episode with all the links to the stories or mentions we had at welikedrinking.com/podcast. Oh, all right, guys. Well, it's that time of the show where I get to say, okay, panel, let's take one last trip around this table and get some final thoughts before we shut off the lights. John Ruyak.
You know, we've been sitting here talking about biodynamics, and I'm just wondering what kind of microbiome is in the bottom of this Lost Cause meadery bottle that's been sitting on my desk for the last 4 weeks.
That's
oh my God.
Probably what's making your bread at this point. Jeff Solomon.
Dude, send that back to Billy Belts. He'll still make something tasty out of it.
Jeff Solomon, or was that
sure? You know what? No, okay. John got me thinking about the Wu-Tang Clan and the Old Dirty Bastards. So this is the part where Jeff Eccles stops the music right now, and then I go shimmy, shimmy, y'all, shimmy, yeah, shimmy, yay. Give me the mic so I can take it away. Off on a natural charge, bon voyage. Yeah, from the home of the dawn of Brooklyn squad. Wu-Tang killer bees all the swarm. Rain on your college-ass disco dorm. You can even touch my skill. Got to be the one killer bee, and he aim for the kill now. Chop that down, pass it all around. Lyrics get hard, quick, cement to the ground. For any MC in any 52 states, I get psycho. Killer Norman Bates. My producer's lame. My flow was like, blam! Jump on stage, and then I get down. Bring the music back.
Oh, I was gonna say
the best part of
the mic.
The best part of that, listeners, was the look on Craig Kim's face the whole time.
That's what I was just going to say. He took my lines.
Jeez.
Craig, any final thoughts for the listeners before we let you go to bed?
Well, just I think it's great what you guys are doing. This is fun, and this is, the wine and beer is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be part of life. So thanks for getting that message out there. And enough of stuffy wine.
Amen to that.
Yes.
And Craig, I know you're a farmer, so you got to be up early. So I really appreciate you. We've been trying to get Craig on the show for a while, so I'm really happy that we were able to make it happen, and really honored that you were able to come on the show. And listeners, if you can find yourself some Troon wine, check out the website. If you can't find it, treat yourself to a couple bottles of this wine, because it is some stellar juice. And with that, I'll say thanks again for joining us at the We Like Drinking podcast, where you'll never drink alone. And scene.
Cut.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.